Today I got some Kubera things I want to talk about. If Vince comes around, bonjour mon cœur. If he comes around, maybe I'll let him chime in. But there's two things I want to talk about specifically. So a while ago on Discord, wow, I had the picture and I lost it. Yeah, so Ashu asked me, my overall opinion on time travel, why I'm not as scathing on a series which employs time travel compared to how some other fans and content creators think about time travel, and how do I think that Kubera uses time travel, and at what point do I think it could potentially bother me, or what are some future issues I could see.
It don't matter though. Young nigga from Canada, brought from that bullshit and go like a matador.
That all being said, to answer the question, on I'll start with my general views on time travel. I'm actually a fan of it. Like, I like time travel. Time travel is not a problem for me. I would, if you ask me to pinpoint what the reasoning is behind time travel not bothering me in narrative, because I know for a lot of people that, and especially any narrative that starts to cover like the many world interpretation theories, or just like the multiverse in general, multiple timelines, parallel universes, X, Y, and Z. I think the reason that I'm so comfortable with it and never it's not jarring to me is because I grew up a comic book fan my whole life. Multiverse, versus crossing over dimensions, pocket dimensions, time traveling, wiping out entire timelines, branching timelines, and things of that nature were always something that I read from a young age. So like, when I started to see them in Japanese storytelling, or like in a webtoon from Korea or whatever the case is, it's not jarring to me. It's not this weird thing where I'm like, ugh. But I do actually agree that if you don't introduce time travel into your narrative in the properly in the proper sense, you can completely ruin it, or jumble it, or just make it very confusing and convoluted. So I do think it's one of those things that you do have to handle with care. It's why I kind of understand people's kind of aversion to it, and why they're like, I don't know how I feel. Time travel, it could be. I understand it, but I always say at least give them the chance to prove that they can handle it. So that's probably why it's never really bothered me. And I think some of the best stories and some of the best moments in some of my favorite narratives had a time travel moment or something timey-wimey in there. And even like when I think about Steins Gate is one of my favorite visual novels and one of my favorite stories. That has a lot to do with time and emails and whatnot. So I like it. It's just a thing like the way that people probably in general feel about time travel being like a problematic storytelling device. I think amnesia is lazy. I hate amnesia stories, or anyone who gets amnesia, or I can't remember who I am. Like, that bothers me. Like, that's probably my like pet peeve in storytelling. Like, oh, here we go. They don't remember nothing. It'd be mad annoying. So same comments got me thinking time travel is the standard. Yeah, like to some degree. And I messed a little bit with Doctor Who. So Kubera Stein gets out. Yes. AOT. Time travel can be really fun to me. One of my favorite things about Invincible. Ooh, that's a good one too. I think a lot of big RJ ins about time travel is that they never explain how time travel loops actually start, only that it exists. Okay, issue. Okay, let's not go too far into Steins Gate's view. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna that's all I'm gonna say. Tommy Wimey, I missed the Doctor Who. Yeah, the ending of AOT. Ooh, we hate Olin. Yeah, that's not it. Not trying to get spoiled. Yeah, don't. I got you. I'm not gonna go in depth into that. But like, that's probably the reason why I've always taken it so well. Even when it was introduced in the narrative, like One Piece, which I even like listen, One Piece has a lot of wackiness, so it wasn't like a weird thing to me. But it was just like, yeah, I'm cool with it as long as he's not a moron with the time travel shenanigans. But generally speaking, when there's like time loops and like and you want to know how it starts, I do agree with Miles that I think a lot of stories kind of omit how it begins or how to break the loop or whatever. But I've seen enough good, and I've seen enough stories that actually kind of do that, or they talk about the very first time and why you have to, or like I've seen stories where it's like you can't break the loop if you have to perpetuate the cycle and make sure the next version of you does this, because if you do this, you'll mess this up. So, but time travel, I believe there's kind of like a traditional way to do it. Like, you know how like with vampires, And with werewolves, some people really like them traditional. Like they don't want to see them sparkling in the sun. Like they like like I kind of have some traditional thoughts on time travel, but I think you can make the rules for your own story as long as it's consistent and doesn't break or mess with any of the other systems you have working in the story. I do think you can implement your own personal rules. 'Cause I know some stories will do something like, let's say like um you know what? I'll just use Dragon Ball just because. Why not? It's an easy example. So Dragon Ball, you know, Trunks comes back and he's like, "Yo, the androids." Now some time travel stories, if Goku learns that information and like say he beats the androids, it rewrites that timeline or it reshapes the future. But you might read some stories that once there's a divergence in what's supposed to happen initially, you create a branching path right from that moment. You see what I'm saying? And then now that runs parallel across to Trunks' version of the timeline and the timeline where he tells Goku what's going to happen to his heart. So, yeah. Now, that all being said, what's up, Mikey? That all being said, I think time travel and Kubera is handled like really, really, really well. I'm actually highly impressed with how Kurigama handles the time travel and stuff. And I think that she wait, what did I about to do? Oh, thank you. I think that Kurigama, she did a lot of important groundwork. I think that's the main thing that she did a lot that really helps with how we take it in Kubera. There's a lot of groundwork and a lot of building the foundation very early on through the narrative. And as a result of that, when these like little time elements, and now I know now we're starting to really explore the past in a much deeper sense and whatnot, but now with these time elements being introduced and stuff, we take it's much more palatable. We can take it a lot easier because you're like, no, like you've explained it well, you set it up well, and you have enough interesting past events and interesting things related to people's backstories that we want to explore as a reader. We want to be here. Like the present time stuff is cool. We definitely want to get to the future at some point, but we care about the past because we know how it shapes the future. And this is a story where you have characters with varying lifespans and they look at the world differently because of how much time they have to live. So seeing how a human handles something like time travel versus a Sora who's lived many years. Like see, remember Ran was struggling in the weight of time. There's so many small things like that that I think is really good. Like if I'm just walking in some white space for it seems forever, I can see my mind cracking. I'm not used to that. My lifespan is supposed to be like somewhere like 60 to 80 years. You feel what I'm saying? But for someone who's already lived hundreds of thousands of years, something like that is not a big deal to them. So she even has cool things with how people see time and how they experience it when they're time traveling. She does a really good job with that. So Kubera's time travel to me is elite. It's probably one of the better ones that I've read, especially for best webtoon one for sure. Even if I'm thinking about most manga and stuff, I would give this the nod on that. The only thing that I would say is if we're talking about just parallel universes in general, there are some other narratives that I think do it pretty well. I think JoJo has some good ones. I think Reborn does it well. So some other ones that have like a couple like universes and stuff that do it well. But Kubera, I think it's at the end of the day, what's always gonna make Kubera so solid is that it has such a strong base, a strong foundational pillar. And a lot of stories don't have that. They're not bad stories, but they didn't take the time to just create a very strong bottom to build things upon. Where like even though we're still enjoying the narrative, things aren't cool, there's a crack at the bottom. So that's how I would say. So I think that travel with Kubera is really good. I think Kurigam treating the timeless of the possibilities really helps with the causes and consequences of time travel in Kubera. I think I agree with that. I agree with that well because it's more like the best possible this possible timeline, theoretical and whatnot too, because of the way that she handles it as well. Also, when you're dealing with literal gods, time travel in Kubera is easily within the realm of believability. I agree with that as well. Like there's a lot of small moving parts and mechanisms that make all of that very easy to swallow, so to speak. It also helps that they have beings that are somewhat con- uh somehow constraints but aware of time, which allows for very interesting and unique dialogue. Like Chandra being, "Oh, you meant to future me" and stuff. Oh yeah, for sure. The dialogue, the way that she has them interact and talk about interact and talk about it also definitely goes a long way. So I agree with that. I agree with that. Now for this, wait, is there anything else I want to say about it? I also think like the first major instance, there's probably in hindsight, there's probably more timey wimey stuff that happens a little earlier in some capacity, but what I would say is the first major instance where you kind of really get it slapped in your face. I think it's very powerful because in my mind, I think about Kubera, the older Kubera taking over the younger body of Kubera and helping her out. When we had seen in the season two, then we learned with the conversation with Callie how she got sent back to do that, right? And we were just like, yo, that's so raw. Like, I think even having the first instance of a proper reveal of it has this level of impact. Maybe there's an earlier one I'm not remembering, but still, I think it impacted me well. And then when we got to the other side of the story and the Wheel of Time specifically, and we were really doing this, I was just ready. I'm like, this is awesome. You see, and then also remember, it also ties into Vishnu, ties into like it's a Hadi Vishnu and whatnot. So they're in that like weird world with like the paper. Like it was just like, so this is where Asha went when she got transported. Like it just all came full circle and enclosed. You know, it was just great. So you got to give Curry Gum credit for that. That's why she top one, man. Now the second part of your question was, let me just make sure I'm reading it properly. How do you think Kubera uses time travel, and at what point could it potentially bother me? I do think the gimmick could get stale. That's all I. That's like the two things I could really say is she can mess up something where that she makes a consistency error. I would argue she has a couple of things built in place to work around one or two time inconsistencies. So she probably is okay even if she makes a mistake. So like if she just literally messes up and just misremembers something or didn't set it up properly, like that's a possibility. But I'm not gonna go with that because I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't foresee that because I think that she has the story planned out really well. But I just do think like it could get old if we're in the, let's say like for the next 2 years of reading Kubera, we're constantly in the past. Maybe somebody is itching or really wants the ability to sorry, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Somebody really wants the ability to. Oh, someone wants to actually go back into the real, like the present time. Like I could see that bothering a reader, especially if you've been here for a long time. You've been reading it for like 4 years weekly, and like, man, like I will like this time this past stuff is cool, but I'm ready to get back to the present time. I can see that happening with somebody. And again, I do think like if she does too many like ooh time tricks, ooh time shenanigans, ooh time this, time that, I can see it getting stale for some people. I believe that certain series has their gimmicks and staples and things that they do, so I don't really get mad when something gets quote unquote stagnant or is repeated. But and I think sometimes it's an exercise in futility to argue against that. But I do really think that for some people it can be like, okay, we get it, like time travel, we get it, going back to the past, we get it. This happened in this time. Do we have to always go there and explore it? I can see someone kind of. I'm not that person. I'm here for it, but I can see that. So the only thing that's thrown me off with the past stuff is getting Maruna's fifth stage transformation wrong every time. And I don't let it bother me. I don't miss the present. These past characters, yeah. Like I'm okay right now. If something uninteresting or something that's not particularly moving me, if I'm being unmoved by something, I could see it. But I'm very engaged with what's going on right now, so it's not a problem. So, but yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I think about time travel in general and time travel in Kubera. I think it's really well done. And again, I think even just the general time element of beings of time or beings who can perceive and understand the concept of time and time travel and world hopping and all kind of stuff like that. I think it's all well handled. I don't have an issue with it. I probably the reason why I never really thought to make it a topic of discussion is because it's so seamless, it's so well done that I don't even have to really think about it. It's just like part of the story. You know what I'm saying? Vishnu is the cheat code to explain any time inconsistency. Oh, see, you kind of get it. Shuri did say that Vishnu could tweak events to get the desired outcome. Nah, when I'm going to make the moved emote, nah, that doesn't exist.